All right, welcome back to As Told by You. Today we have one of, I guess, my sort of original photographer friends in
Yeah.
Columbia, Jessica Hunt, and we're just gonna kind of do a little get to know you. So introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Jessica Hunt. I am a small business owner here in Columbia. This is my 11th year full time in business. I am a photographer by trade and an artist at heart. And my team and I, my company, focus mainly on special events, weddings, things like that. But we have expanded in the past 2 years. We now cover corporate events, headshots, family portraits, graduation photos. I like to say now, if you need imagery or photos, we have a team member who can make that happen for you. So we've kind of expanded from just serving couples on one day, which is not a lot of return customers, thankfully. We don't want people getting divorced, into a model that kind of allows us to serve those clients after we meet them at wedding throughout their life, whether portraits, events, things like that. So
Cool.
that's what I do.
And just started doing video too as well, right?
Yeah, we just added in a video team member about a year ago, and he is covering not only our wedding events with us, so our couples can just add that on with our experience, whether it's with me as their primary photographer or their associate team with the brand, get that wedding video or that highlight, and we also kind of bring him on for our commercial and corporate work too, whether it's a brand film or we have a client who needs some reels content, that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So I
not to
know.
step into your lane, Bill.
No, that's fine. Listen, the lane's wide.
Yeah.
It's a wide lane. There's a lot of room, so it's no problem. And we stopped doing weddings 2 years ago, so it's been a recovery period, I guess.
Yeah.
We were talking about the PTSD that you kind of get from doing it, and like I'm going into a Saturday, and I still have a little bit of a tinge of like I should be doing
I
something.
should be somewhere. Are my
Should be
batteries
doing
charged?
something. Nope, I'm good. I can just sleep in,
Yeah.
and make 2 pots of coffee. It's
Yep.
totally fine. We're good. So you started 11 years ago, so I'm assuming that's probably when we met, probably
Yeah.
2014 or whatever. Talk about kind of what got you into photography, why photography, what was the kind of connection to that? And how old were you in 2014? I know
I
you were
was
young. You were
21 years old, Bill.
21. Okay.
I met you probably 3 or 4 months after I got my degree.
Right.
And I kind of founded the business and I started my LLC that January 2015.
Gotcha.
So I was working weddings and in the industry a little bit, probably the previous 3 or 4 years before that. I actually got my start as a intern in high school for a wedding photographer when I was a junior and then into my senior year. She was involved at my church and we just got along really well. I got a camera when I turned 16 from my parents as a gift, and I spent a lot of time during that time like just taking photos of like rocks and flowers and just like really loving my Nikon point and shoot, and kind of really just had a passion for it. Started working with her, got a better camera. Thought when I originally went into college that I would kind of keep this as my side thing and my hobby. Pursued a different degree for a year and was immediately like, you know what? Absolutely not. I'm so much more interested in taking photos of people, working with people, making them feel seen. So I transferred. I attended Columbia College, which is an all women's liberal arts college here in Columbia, and then kind of finished up my degree as fast as I could, so I could kind of jump into kind of just doing what I do now, which is just serving people, making them feel really well. I love to joke around all the time and tell people I've never had a real job because I have been self-employed my entire life. I graduated school and got my degree in 2014. And then went full-time with the business, as I say, and kind of got the LLC in 2015. So I kind of started that passion there. And once I kind of felt that pull of this seems hard and this is challenging and I kind of want to try it, I just kind of dive right in and have just kept pursuing it. I am someone who, whenever things are a little too easy, I get kind of bored. So I've found that as I've grown in my career where I get super good at something and I'm like, okay, I need to challenge myself again. This has gotten a little boring for me. So that kind of started all the way back then where it was just kind of like, you know what, I will be a professional artist and get an art degree. Everyone says that's really hard. It has been very difficult, but it's been super, super rewarding. But that's kind of where I started and kind of what's led to today, which is just constantly like, I just want to get better. I just want to keep challenging myself and I don't really want to coast. I'm not too much of a coaster.
Yeah, no, I get that. So you've seen a lot of changes in the photography industry, obviously,
Yeah.
from 2014 to now. We got into it in 2008, and so in 2008 it was all film. It was all prints. It was
Yeah.
and there was this passionate connection to printing on canvas or paper or making books or whatever. What changes have you seen in the photography business from 2014 to now?
Gosh, I think so many. I think social media and the way that as markets change and grow has shifted the way couples view their experience in the day. The way vendors approach it is really different. Things that stand out to me is we're thankfully in a time where the industry is not as closed off for certain groups of people as it was before. We have a lot of publications that are constantly publishing and sharing work from different types of couples and different places. And it's kind of broken out of that same mold of like kind of the two people underneath the arbor, green and white flowers, one perfect, Western wedding, kind of that kind of thing. So I'm happy to see that change. I think the industry just has shifted in priorities. Couples care about different things than they used to. They find you different ways than they used to. I think probably like 4 years ago, I would say most of our leads were coming from Google and referrals. Now, most of our 90% of our leads are from referrals, and the rest is maybe social media if they see our content, fingers crossed, hopefully. So I think the industry has shifted not only just based on like market and how kind of business works, but since the pandemic, especially, people and we all see the world differently, and that has definitely impacted the way people see their weddings. People are investing differently. They're prioritizing things a lot differently than they used to, and they're making decisions that are, I think a little bit more true to themselves and maybe a little bit more authentic. I think a lot of people learn the lesson of, you're not always guaranteed tomorrow or with those that you love that much, and that was really a big kind of in all of our faces. But I think it also the pandemic broke a lot of wedding rules. People were totally okay with going to your backyard elopement with 50 people and doing like a little shindig, and you're all having fun in the backyard with your little band, polka band outside. And people had those weddings before, but that term of micro weddings got really big in 2020. And I think that's just kind of led to the industry has just shifted, and couples are thinking about things differently, willing to do smaller events and not, maybe invite everyone you've ever met your whole life and your entire church to your wedding anymore. But I also think, all those things are like really good changes for us. I want to see more couples celebrating what feels authentic and is like real to them. And if a huge, big day at like the governor's mansion with 400 people doesn't fit you, I don't think we're in the space where couples are like, I have to do that anymore.
Yeah, they don't feel compelled to impress their parents' friends.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely very different. And they think, they want to impress their friends, but in a different way. They want to impress their friends on social media and for their like imagery and what we do to look really, really good. They're really focused on the guest experience, or we're worried about, those custom cocktails or, can we bring out a little snack at the end of the night? Or, a big trend that's come up in the past few years is that final last dance. We get everyone out of the reception. They're waiting outside of the exit, and the couple is just doing like a final dance right before the exit. That did not happen in my career until about 3 or 4 years ago. And now almost every single one of our couples does it. So there are like trends that have changed a lot. I think the market has changed a lot. And I think, just like in any other space, COVID changed and shifted so much. Also, things are way more expensive than they were when I started. And I know more about the market and I know more about myself as a professional. So I think I just have a definitely different perspective on that money side of things and where people are investing and kind of where cost of business is at and that kind of thing.
Speaking of the money side of things, what are some of the lessons you might have learned? Because obviously starting a business at 21 and turning it into something successful and that's able to support you and your family, or how do you balance the artistic nature of I'm an artist with I got to make money? Mm-hmm. What are some of the lessons you learned along the way with that?
I think the biggest thing is what has allowed me to be successful is just keeping people at the center of everything. If we're showing up for a gig, being able to kind of abandon your ego and set yourself aside and only focus on this is your day, it's your experience. It doesn't matter anything that I create for myself. I'm not trying to go viral off this. I don't want this one epic image to finally make my career, or I'm not just seeing it as a marketing opportunity, kind of going in with that genuine, authentic heart of just like, you're a human. I want to honor that space here and just show up and do good and be good. That has allowed me to like constantly bring more people back. And then the clients feel that energy, and they give me space to be who I am and give me space to create what I can create. You know, you do your best work in the best circumstances when you're set up for success. One of those, I think, is that trust relationship between the client and kind of making sure that they feel that energy when they start with us. And then I'm able just to kind of do my thing, you know. And of course, in business, you know, you're trying to think about all these numbers and you're expanding and you want to, you know, grow and grow and grow. And how do I keep it like at the heart? I think the thing for me is just really that my art is like inextricably linked with the people. And so if I'm like showing up for them and I'm able to, I can see on their faces they feel safe and I can see those real smiles, I like that kind of feeds me to be able to create a little bit more. That's what I'm really inspired by, is like humans and real experiences. I think if I wasn't able to find my inspiration there, weddings would probably not be the space you should be in.
No.
Because it's all about people. I think the greatest strength as a wedding vendor is, like I said, abandoning your ego, being like a service-centered person for sure. But it's the humans for sure.
How much percentage of your business is weddings?
Right now, probably about 55 to 60%. About 3 years ago, it was about 95% of the brand. And so I have been consistently over the past few years since the pandemic and learning that the age-old addict, well, you have a great, you know, career security. People are always going to get married. No, they're not. In fact, jokes. So kind of going through that, learning that lesson, I've been consistently working on marketing and bringing in different types of clients into the business. And then just talking with my current clients or past clients about what we do now is a huge thing. Because like if you treat people well and you do good, they're going to come to you for that next thing that they need. And so I think that's the other thing, is not being too afraid to like tell people I'm doing something different. I'm excited about it. Doesn't mean I failed. In fact, I feel more successful now than I did before when I was booking 45 weddings a year. And that is kind of with my values and priorities have changed, and kind of seeing that like hustling and busy all the time isn't success. My version of success is to work the least amount of time possible and make the most possible. That is absolutely my goal. I do not want to hustle every weekend. I don't want to work every weekend. Been there, done that. Godspeed to you who are doing it. I hope you're being able to show up and serve well. I think it burns you out really bad. But that change was COVID kind of started that. And now that I've been able to see, like, it's so fun to go to like a football game on a fall Saturday. And when you start your business at 21 and you're hustling really hard to make that happen, it was about 7-8 years until I got to the point where I wasn't busy every fall Saturday. That's till I'm 29. I gave my 20s to my business. There's some regret in there, and we'll work that without my therapist, you know, but I am really proud of that dedication and diligence. And it allowed me to be now where I can send my team off on those wonderful fall Saturdays. And if you guys need anything, please don't need me, because I will be at the football game, which is, you know, I think the give and take of when you are a really young business owner is really kind of understanding that if you really hustle and you put it in and you're diligent, that time where you're not going to have to do all of that forever is going to come. But signing up for 8 years of that hustle, it's definitely not maybe what I expected when I started, you know?
Listen, 45 weddings a year is a lot.
Too much.
It's a lot. That's most every weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
Insanity.
And at our height, I think the most we ever did was 29.
Yeah.
And that was a lot. That was too much.
We had 40, like I think about 40, 2021, 45, 2022, about 43, 2023. And then I was like, haha, no more.
Yeah.
We can't do this. Yeah. And I think not only for myself, but also for my team, making sure that they are able to, like, their work with us only grows their life and only feeds them in the way that they need.
Right.
And they're able to do their best work. I always want to set them up for success. You cannot, and I firmly believe this, especially as an artist in imagery creation, go every single Saturday to the same 5 venues and show up and create your best work. that's just, your best work doesn't happen in that.
Because you start to go, I've already got a shot of that sign. I've already got a shot of that sign on a bright blue sunny day. I've already got a shot of that sign on a cloudy day.
Yep.
I've already got a shot of that sign when it's raining. You know, that's what ends up
And
happening.
I've done portraits on this staircase 17 times.
Right.
Now, is the staircase beautiful? Yes. Is it different every time because the couples are wonderful and beautiful and unique? Yes. But when you are, especially weddings are very similar in the timeline in what we do as professionals. Not to offend any couple, all of your weddings are so amazing and unique and perfect. I would never say different. But I more mean to say, like, on the professional side, there's set times that you have, you know, usually an hour and 45 minutes for getting ready details. You're going to do first look with dad or first look with the couple, 30 minutes of portraits of the couple, wedding party comes out, 30 minutes. If we can get family there early, we're now an hour before the ceremony, family portraits, 30-minute downtime. We're just shoving snacks in our face and drinking water as fast as we can. Ceremony, cocktail hour, 3.5 hours, you're exiting your reception. I see the sparklers, kiss goodnight. It's fun. It's so wonderful. I love it. Obviously, I've done it for a long time. But when you get into, you're shooting that, like we're talking about, that many days, you're working that many of those same similar events, without a lot of mental discipline, you go in being like, I've been to 701 Whaley like 16 times this fall.
And
Here I go again, you know?
And then when you're not, what you're doing is you're traveling 2 or 3 hours out of town, and then you got a whole other set of circumstances that are challenging. And I don't know if you run into this, but you start to get an instinct for, you're like, I think something's about to happen.
Yeah.
You're sitting at the reception, everybody's dancing. You're like, wait a minute.
The energy has shifted in this room.
Something's about to happen.
Yeah.
It's a flock of birds. Like,
Yep.
it's just going, everybody's like, you just go, and you look around for your second. You're like, okay, are they in place?
ready? Yeah.
Are we ready? Because I
Did we
feel like
miss the
somebody
first dance already.
Yeah.
like I feel like somebody's going to grab the mic and get up there, and you know it. But like I've never done obviously 45 a year. That's crazy. That's a lot. But you know when the last year we went kind of full boat into it was 2018. I think we did 27 that year. Out of the 27, 18 were out of Columbia. So we were in Highlands, we were in Savannah, we were in Hilton Head, you know, and then when we got to come back to Columbia, it was like, oh yeah, I remember 701
Yeah.
Whaley. That's fun. You know, this is fun. We're home.
Yeah.
I get to drive home tonight after this is
Yeah.
over, you know. But you know, it's got to be a labor of love. And I think to Brian's question, one of the things that happened with us, at least, I think when you're in a creative pursuit, if you're good enough at expressing your creative element, you attract the people that fit with your creative element, and they want to pay for what you're doing. And you know what I mean? It's not a challenge of expense. It's like, I want you because I love your style,
Yeah.
and I'll pay whatever you're charging,
Yeah.
you know? And so you get to develop that over the course of the period of time.
That's one of my favorite things to hear from a potential client is we're on our discovery call and they're like, I know you don't know this, but I've actually been following you on Instagram for like 7 years.
Oh, yeah.
And before I even met my partner, I knew you were going to be my wedding photographer.
Right.
We just had a couple in DC last year, Kelly and James. I photographed James's headshots when we first got out of college in 2014 for like $50.
Right.
And his life continued, my life continued. I grew in my career. Him and his husband just got married in DC, and they were one of my highest priced clients
Yeah.
that I've had in my career to date. And I love the destination where I get on a plane, but I do agree with you that sometimes the driving, I'm like, this sounds so fun, but I could do similar things 10 minutes from my house also.
Right.
But I think that's where it comes into a labor of love. If you connect with the clients, you know, it's not much of an ask if I if we've got a really good vibe, because I think that makes the whole day easier. I would
Oh, yeah.
rather drive 3 hours for a real chill, good vibe, connected couple with us than work with someone who absolutely hates our guts, you know, 10
Yeah.
minutes down the street for sure. But the travel is definitely a whole nother layer, like you're talking about, because there's more to coordinate. I can't always bring my dedicated team here with me. You know, they may not want to get on a plane and be in DC for 4 days and work one of them and all of us just running around doing extra shit. And that's okay. So it's like definitely that coordination of finding those other professionals that you can work with in those areas too. That's something that I've been expanding into with my work as the principal photographer. Is most of my days are going to be travel destination days where I'm going to larger metropolitan cities and kind of working in those bigger spaces. And that is one of the things that it's like, yeah, it's so fun and exciting and fancy that I get to tell people like I travel across the country and photograph weddings. It is stressful. For example, if you're, I don't know, like on the way to that DC wedding, perhaps you maybe get to the airport 5 minutes later than you meant to, and they don't let you check your bag, which has your gear in it. And now you might be late to the rehearsal that you have to photograph that afternoon. And you're in South Carolina, like, haha, jokes, right? Don't worry. I got to Philly and got on an Amtrak, got to the hotel, got changed, and was at the rehearsal with no moments to spare, but still there, camera in hand. But it's just a whole nother layer. And like you said, without the love and the care, I think the vendors who aren't in that space and don't have the space to really care about people and separate their ego, it stands out when you work with them.
And 90% of the time, the couples and the families never know.
Yeah.
They never know the struggle, because you're not going to get there and go, you guys would not believe the crazy.
No. I'm not sure, like, oh my God, congratulations, happy wedding day.
I had back when I still worked a job, this was like before I quit my job to do this, I traveled around the country installing computer systems in restaurants all over the place. And I was in Baltimore, supposed to come home on Thursday. They had to extend my trip for another day because something didn't arrive. So I was leaving on Friday, had a wedding on Saturday. So I get to, my boss always made me fly out of Dulles. I don't know why, but I had to drive from Baltimore to Dulles. I had to get to my gate, which to get to Columbia from Dulles was the D gate, which is like you go into the airport, you go all the way to the last thing, then you take a bus down to the D gate. And then the planes are lined up in the field, right? So there's not even a shuttle. There's no, So I get down to
this anymore, just so you know.
Right. I get down to D gate, and it's I think I'm supposed to leave at like 8:00 or something. And it would put me back in Columbia at 9:30 or 10. I'd get home. I'd have plenty of time to get ready for the wedding on Saturday. So the 8:00 flight gets delayed to 9:00. It's like, all right, 9:00's no problem. We got 9:00. Gets delayed till 11:00. And I'm like, oh crap, now it's 11:00. Then it gets delayed to like 11:45. And at 11:45, they're like, we're not making any more announcements about this flight. We'll let you know when it's time. So
the next announcement might be canceled.
Like 1:40. Now I'm at D gate. You understand that there's no hotels anywhere near here. This is the Wild West. We're out in the middle of a town with no sheriff, right? And there's no restaurants out here. There's one restroom. There's vending machines. There's a couple of chairs, but that's it. So 1:45, they're like, we found a crew. The crew will be here in the next hour, and we hope to get off the ground very soon. And that was it, like 1:45 in the morning. So the plane ended up leaving Dulles at 4:45 a.m. I had been working the whole day, right? Traveled to Dulles. I'm sitting here in the airport. There's nowhere for me to sleep or whatever it is, I get to Columbia as the day starts to break, and the cleaning crew's coming in and all this stuff. And I got to be at the wedding at 11:00 in the morning, right? And it's 6:45 or something. And I get home, I like literally take a shower. I put my batteries on the charger, make sure everything's ready to go. And I'm at the wedding at 11:00, and I shoot until almost midnight, and that's the job, right? When you sign up to do weddings in any capacity. And Brian was a wedding DJ, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that, but Brian and I met originally at a wedding.
Oh, cool.
He was DJing and I was videoing.
So
yeah,
just the other side of madness.
I do know the struggle.
But the DJ comes in later in the day, which is nice. But then the DJ's got a whole other set of
responsibilities. And you get like your own little
setup,
setup, and you don't have to chase anyone around.
Yeah.
Except for like
However,
running from the planner.
We have our own pressures.
Yeah, for sure.
However, if you don't play the right song,
that's right.
Ooh.
Or if the bridesmaid requests something that you don't have or is on the note.
Mispronounce someone's name in the wedding party.
Oh, God forbid. Or say the wedding party out of order. Who's going to walk? How do they know how to go?
The advantage I had was I didn't own the DJ company.
Okay.
Right.
So I was just one of the DJs that was sent out. So
Okay. That's a little helpful.
it was less pressure, but not really because
still
you're
gotta
the
show
only
up.
one.
He worked for Cameron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
That's so crazy, that story, because I have literally been in that same situation with that same flight, Bill.
Yeah,
From
yeah.
Dulles to CAE.
Yeah.
It's supposed to it's like a 9:45 flight or something
Yeah.
like that. It's the last one. It's the last direct to
last
Columbia
one's
from
supposed to come
Dulles.
out.
It was me and a wedding planner. Thankfully, it was not going to a wedding. It was coming back from a wedding in
Right.
San Francisco. Same exact thing. The flight took off at like 4:45. They said
Yeah.
the same thing, like, "Oh, we found a crew." And I'm like, "What do you mean you found a crew?
Like, where was the crew? Like,
Where
what-
were they?
What was the original plan?
Yeah.
Did you have a crew that you're like, these guys are questionable.
Well,
We're gonna
yeah.
put them on it, but we don't know that they're gonna make it. And
We know what the answer is.
it wasn't a mechanical.
They were on another flight.
Yeah.
That was delayed, and then their hours expired, and they
Right.
couldn't get transferred to that flight.
Yeah.
So now they don't have a crew because that crew's got to go home, and then they got to find another crew that
I mean, man, if you
They
want
had
to talk about
Poland.
an
had the
industry,
2 hours left to go from
Yeah,
from
exactly.
DC to
an
Columbus.
industry that's a complete mess is the airline industry.
Can't
It's a
imagine.
mess, and there's nothing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what's going on. It's completely crazy. I've had so many of those cross country flights. Thankfully, haven't had conflict with weddings in a lot of years, but we did a shoot in San Diego, 2019, so before COVID, and we were coming back from San Diego, and our connecting flight in Dallas, we missed that flight by 20 minutes, and that was the last flight to Columbia from Dallas, and so we had to spend the night in Dallas. And it's like when you get delayed that day, like everything just gets thrown
Yeah.
off. It's unreal. I will tell you the one thing I saw reset after COVID was that churches in general got happier. They all got happier. They were just happy to see you.
Yeah.
There were less restrictive rules. The church directors were nicer. I remember going back to St. Peter's after COVID, and the church director, I was really concerned with, like, what is this going to be like? Because I hadn't been at St. Peter's in a while. And she was so nice. She was like, at a certain part of the ceremony, they're going to turn. And so it would be really cool if you came around the side here and shoot
I
back
love
towards
that,
them
yeah.
kneeling, and you'll get their faces. You won't get their faces unless
Yeah.
you come around here. So just pay attention to that. When he says this thing, I was like, what are you talking about? Like the last time we were at St. Peter's, they were like, you have to stay outside the church or in the balcony.
Yep.
And you can't go anywhere. And they're mean about it, and all of a sudden, COVID happens and everybody's so happy to have you back in the church. They're like, oh my God, I'm so happy people are here again, And I think it's a very, I've obviously haven't done them in a little while, but I love that kind of time in 2020 and 2021 where we weren't allowed in the venues, so we had to make up stuff. We had to figure out, how do we do this in a field, or how do we do it, at the house, or how do we do
Yeah.
it, outside of the normal thing. So I'm glad to hear that kind of uniqueness is kept up.
For sure. I think what we're talking about though with like the showing up in the flights and stuff is like kind of sometimes I could like kind of trade in this idea of your wedding is like your Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So when you go in, say you're a team owner and you're picking out and drafting your team, right? You're a couple, you're drafting your creative team. You are going to pick the best players to
Right.
win you the Super Bowl. You're going to have your salary cap, your budget, right? And you're going to draft in the best players, right? You're not going to take a risk at the Super Bowl on your friend down the street who does this sometimes and plays football once a year, right? At the Super Bowl, you literally want the best. You want Pat Mahomes, you want Lamar, you want the best of the best. So I try to tell couples about that. That is why I think there's a big conversation right now on social media about why weddings are so expensive. And do wedding vendors add a wedding tax?
Right.
And is there just like this scam in the industry? Absolutely not. You're drafting a professional team of pro vendors to come and play the Super Bowl for you. That means that they are preparing for the Super Bowl. They know how to play already in the Super Bowl. They are reserving your Super Bowl date a year and a half, 2 years in advance on their calendar, promising they're going to stay up to the physical fitness of a Super Bowl player. They're going to stay up to the craft. They're going to have everything 2 years in advance.
And there are no excuses.
No excuses. You sick on somebody's wedding day, too bad. They're still getting married.
You can't go, oops, I didn't get it.
Exactly. So like that idea, or, those, just like you say, the greatest quarterbacks in the league, they never miss that pass. That's the one they have to make. As a wedding vendor, every weekend you are playing in the Super Bowl. You are throwing passes that you cannot miss. And you on each side of that pass, whether it's to videographer and photographer, we can't miss. Because if one of us misses, the client misses that perhaps we don't get the ring, keeping that metaphor going. So I think that's something that I was like kind of threading about the other day of there's no wedding tax. There's no additional price that just pulled out of nowhere for these events. You are absolutely having a professional come in and be a dedicated service member for an event that is a year and a half in advance. Draft the best for your Super Bowl
that you can't miss.
that you cannot miss. And if you don't, obviously now this metaphor falls apart when you don't want to go back to the Super Bowl again. But don't you want to have the best one and really knock it out of the park and like really get that? So it's like, I've been seeing that conversation, and, I think a lot of couples are coming into it, and like, cost of business has changed astronomically for all of us since COVID.
Yeah.
It is continuing to shift on a quarterly basis, monthly basis for some things. I think, clients have a different expectation of reality, but I want to make sure that, we have that perception of, you don't want to do this the easy way. You don't want to do this I know her down the street, she has a camera, or, my friend bartends sometimes, it'll be fine. Baby, bartending sometimes and then having 150 people in line at cocktail hour are different.
You got to get it right.
Right.
Then
and if you don't get it
thing.
right, then what are people going to talk about your Super Bowl?
Right.
Man, the shrimp and grits were cold. Do you remember Bill's Super Bowl, man? The dancing was terrible. The DJ was so lame. You know
The
what I mean?
halftime show always sucks. So
Yeah, that's
Like all the DJ played was jazz, and I don't understand where he thought we were going to dance to jazz. Like, I don't get it, man. What
and
was
of
he-
course, people might have a false perception of like your work and be like, oh, they're not doing it right. And you're like, I actually am.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've been seeing conversations about that. Like, is wedding industry a scam? And I just think it's just, if we shift our perspective to talk about what we're really doing here.
Yeah.
This is a once in a lifetime. And it's probably one of the only events as an adult that you'll have in your life where everyone you love and care about and your family members are all in the same room. That usually happens for us as adults at weddings and at funerals. And if that's the last time you and your grandpa are all dressed up, smiley, happy, and he looks so good in his tux, again, that's the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Are you going to cut cost on the last photo of you and your grandpa looking incredible? I know you're not. When you shift that perspective, I think.
I love that perspective, and I will say that.
That's a great metaphor.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and Brian's a sports
My
guy.
football-loving
So-
boyfriend would love this.
I know.
Shout out Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders.
Right?
Oh, wow. I just got so many brownie points. Y'all don't even know.
Right? I definitely am not a sports guy. So I have learned a lot about sports by being Brian's partner over the last couple of years, because he's taught me a lot. But
This last season was my first season ever as an NFL fan.
Okay.
And thrillingly, the team that I have chosen, which is simply because of my boyfriend's family's association with it, super lucked out. We best season in like 30 years for them. So maybe it's me.
I would say what
Maybe
I
it's the
understand.
new ownership. Who knows?
NFL, you just don't know early in the season,
Yeah.
right? You assume the Chiefs will do well, but you don't know going into it. So,
Controversial statement: when the refs are on your side, it's easy to win.
right.
Oh.
The refs, yes. I was reminded of this past week. I went. I don't know, man. We can get on a sports conversation if we want to.
Hell,
but
I brought it
I don't
up
have
as the
anything
woman
to
in the
contribute,
room.
So I couldn't tell you.
We can talk weddings some more. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I got
Same
to
thing.
be.
It's also a sport.
I got to be friends with Jesse James Dupree on Facebook the other day, which is a huge
Really?
deal for me. I don't know if any of y'all know who Jesse James Dupree is, but he was the singer for a band called Jackal.
Oh.
That had a hit in the early 90s. And it was a terrible song, but he played a chainsaw solo. The chainsaw made the notes. And he did this, and every heavy metal fan from the early 90s knows Jackal because of the chainsaw solo. Everybody wanted to play a chainsaw on stage, but nobody did. And I sent him a friend request on Facebook the other day, and he accepted it. And I was
Claim
very
to
excited.
fame.
I shared it with all my friends. I was like, y'all, I'm friends with Jesse James Dupree. And he shared a recent chainsaw solo. He had shot something at like a Hard Rock Cafe in New Jersey somewhere where he played the chainsaw at a concert. So there you go. That's my palate cleanser to get the sports out of the conversation. Not to say that I don't want y'all to talk about sports. I just don't know enough about it to contribute. So
And it's all about him.
Yeah.
well,
Clearly.
whatever, man. I mean, there's three of us here. I mean, we got to talk.
joking.
I was going to tell you. I was reminded of this the other day. I was at a chamber thing, Irmo chamber thing, and somebody walked up to me and she said, "Is your name Bill?" And I said, "Yeah." She's like, "You're a videographer, right?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "You did my wedding." I was like, "Really?" And
Not you forgetting.
and I'm looking at her, I don't know. She said, 13 years ago, you did my wedding. And I was like, oh, well, what's your name? And she told me her name. And as soon as she told me her name, I remembered the wedding.
Like that.
Like it
Yeah.
was yesterday. And it was at St. Peter's, as a matter of fact. Last one I did at St. Peter's until after COVID. But I remembered I remembered the rehearsal dinner was at the hall. I remembered that the reception was at the Capital City Club. And she's got 3 kids now, oldest of which is 13, 11, and 9.
Wow.
And, like one of those great sort of wedding success stories, like, and I thought, wow, that is like building legacy. And that's when you talk about the wedding tax, I think it's really funny when we do a video for a client, right? If we're shooting 8 or 9 or 10 hours, it could be upwards of $10,000-$12,000, right? No blink. Nobody gets emotional about it. It's
Nope.
in their budget. It's like, whatever. What happens with a wedding photographer, a wedding videographer is and look, if we're doing that $10,000 or $12,000 project for a client, we could reshoot stuff. We could redo the voiceover. We could, we don't really like the way that looked, so let's do it again. You can't do that at a wedding. You've got to nail it. And everyone has got to be maybe not your best work, but it's got to be certainly above average.
Yeah.
And to have that consistency to do 45 in a year and have them all at least be above average. I mean, what does that got to cost?
A hell of a lot of time,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's got to be it.
I mean,
right?
we were talking, about like AI before we kind of started recording a little bit, and like implementing some stuff to make things faster. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to just like that mental discipline of like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do this. And also photography, videography, I'll hear horror stories of like couples not receiving their imagery for 4, 5, 6 months post event.
Oh, sure.
We're trying to, we're contracting out and giving clients an expectation of 8 to 12 weeks. We always under promise and over deliver with our clients.
Right.
So if I tell you 12 weeks, my goal is to absolutely get it to you at least 2 weeks before that 12. We're going to try and turn around. I usually am trying to turn around in about 4 weeks for couples,
Right.
and them expecting it to take longer. That way it's like, oh my God, I have my photos. They're early. They look so good. Secret is they weren't early. I just am just making myself do that just so we can keep that going, And I think that's kind of that part of that where it's like you can only do so many, because if you are doing great work and you are presenting that above average, like there's only so much time in the day. There's only so many weekends. And if you are having correct professional boundaries in your small business as a solo entrepreneur, if you're working 40 hours a week in your office or whatever it is, it was not possible for me to be a healthy, boundary-driven professional having my team do 45 weddings a year.
Oh, yeah.
I was waking up at 5 a.m., going to work at 6, working until 6, doing a shoot that night, going to sleep, working out, and doing it again the next day, Monday through Friday, and then I'd shoot a wedding every single Saturday.
Yeah, preach.
It was, I was busy and the time flew by, but that level of discipline and doing that, it's just not sustainable. And I don't think it leads to your best work. Right. I think as wedding vendors, and we've all seen this, when you get to the end of the season, late fall, early December, and everyone's been working through the whole fall season, you could kind of see it on some vendors' faces that they are exhausted.
Yeah.
And, I want all of us to provide for ourselves, but I want us also to, focus on how are we best served as professionals and how are our clients best served. I don't do my best work if I'm hustling like that. Just simply put, I'm not presenting the best experience for the client. I'm not giving them the best photos. I'm not even honoring myself as a human at that time, And I think, we've talked about this before, especially in solo entrepreneurial fields or businesses that are driven by that one person with a dream and a heart, which is so true. I think that leads us to make concessions and give ourselves permission to do things that you would not do for any other job,
Right.
And some part of that is the dedication and the hustle. And the other part of that, I think, is kind of sometimes self-harming because are you really editing to your greatest efficiency at 9:30 p.m. and you've been there all day? No, it's taking twice as long to do one image or whatever that might be. Apply that across the spectrum.
What happens too is that you start off as a solo, you just get into whatever it is that you're into. You start off as a solo, and then you have to add somebody to help you because you got too much going on. And then you add another person, and then you add a third person, and then you add a fourth person, and all of a sudden you've got to charge a lot of money
Yeah.
because of what it takes to keep the machine rolling.
Keep it going, yeah.
And I think it's definitely a challenge for all of us to understand that what we've got to do is serve the people that we want to serve, but then also we've got to charge enough to make it a real business.
Yeah, absolutely.
to where we have money left over at the end of the day.
Right. And I
know?
think, having a profit focused business where you are crunching the numbers and making sure you know your cost of business and all of that is like not part of the fun part of what we do. So I think a lot of people probably avoid it, and or it's kind of scary. It also kind of makes you really look at things really objectively.
Right.
Of I might love this and it might be, what I love to do and I'm fulfilled, but at the end of the day, like, am I able to buy a house one day? Am I going to ever retire? Those questions were not top of mind when I was 21 starting this business at all. Now I'm in my career where I don't want to work every weekend. I'm trying to build something sustainable that will feed my family and my life and my team. And it's just, you got to be real, And also I think, you are both men here in this room. Everyone in this room is a man other than me, but it is not always a fun thing in our culture to hear young women talking about making a lot of money and being expensive. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I make good money. I charge a lot. I am very good at what I do. And having those pushbacks of like, well, is it really worth it? Sometimes I just want to be like, I feel like you wouldn't go to Bill and ask him that same question.
Oh, listen, my wife asks me that all the time.
But in that space of you have,
Is it worth it?
You're
Why are we doing this?
you're older than I am. You
Yeah.
are a man. You have these different perceptions socially.
Yeah.
So the conversation that you might have with a corporate client about pricing is just perceived differently.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that we've seen a huge trend in the wedding industry, especially photographers. It's almost all a female-dominated industry right now.
Yep.
It is very, very, very heavy on that side. And I think that also kind of comes into play here where these little girls with their little cameras shouldn't be making too much, And I think we have to change that perspective. I am an incredible professional. On my team and I deliver excellence. We deserve every dollar. And we're not going to shy away from that. I'm not scared to tell you how much it costs. If you don't want to invest in that, that's so okay. I tell all of our couples, I want you to feel comfortable and confident in your investment with us. But we're not going to be shy about how good we are and how we're trying to be a real business that is profit-centered and centered on taking care of people, taking care of our team, and taking care of like life. I'm not going to work 60 hours a week just so I can be like, oh, I'm a photographer.
Yeah, just
That
add the
might
title.
have been worth it when I was 23 and I just wanted to tell people I was a full-time business owner. Now I really kind of, my perspective, as you get a little bit older changes a little bit. And I think that's another part of that wedding tax conversation of a lot of wedding vendors are solo entrepreneurs. They are young women. And are we having a perception of do they deserve it in some way that's maybe different than you maybe would with, for example, if you're working with a professional who's a 51-year-old man.
Well, and I'll tell you, I never had that thought personally because most of the photographers I work with were women. I just assumed that that's what it was. I worked with a few men here and there. Never really seemed to make much difference to me, but like the videography business is predominantly men.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think we're all attracted to the technology.
Yeah.
We just want to play with cameras. That's
it's
our,
techy.
I don't want to be an artist. I just want to play with cameras.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's, I think that's probably a different, perspective. And, I think it's really interesting hearing that kind of side of it. I think probably a lot of it too is when you start a business at 21, anybody starts a business at 21,
Yeah.
right? You're a kid and you're like, I'm a kid. What am I doing asking for money from people?
Yeah,
It's
so
just
true,
so weird. And so I think as you grow into being in your 30s, I didn't start this business till I was 32. So like, it definitely was, I had been in a business setting for 10 years at that point, and I knew that I needed to talk money up front. I knew that I needed to understand my value. I didn't know in the beginning about things like sales tax and I didn't know about all of that stuff because I hadn't been in that part of the business. But I think that's a really interesting perspective. Several years ago, you branched into doing corporate work. Talk about that a little bit. What was the motivation behind that, and what was that like for you? How did you get to that point? Was that wedding couples that had businesses?
It was more kind of based out of making connections with other vendors and creative teams while working in the wedding industry.
Gotcha.
And then making those personal connections with other either entrepreneurs or teams, and then them wanting someone that they felt comfortable with, that they knew that they could get photos from for their team or business or whatever. So it really definitely started with mainly only my wedding partners just asking me, hey, Jess, would you do this? And, the age-old adage of people will hire you for what you show them. So I only show a lot of weddings on one of my main accounts for my work. And so I had that question a lot of like, do you even do this? So I kind of started there. And then once I kind of started working with those other business owners and kind of found a lot of, fulfillment in chatting with other business owners, hearing where they were, where they wanted to go, and who they wanted to serve, and being able in my head, just like I have for my business, work to create imagery that speaks to that so they can, book that ideal market client is something that's so interesting to me. I love it. I'll sit down with the business owner and let's just have an hour conversation, and I'll just be like, hey, I think you should do this and you should probably do that. Like that consulting kind of thing is like a really interest of mine. So I started there, and now we've just kind of transitioned into starting to market it. We have a sales page, a landing page for those kind of services, and working with, businesses, whether it's either for an event that they're doing with our special event kind of experience with the team. We do a lot of those, corporate get together, 75 people, and you've got a planner, and it's basically all of the same vendors from a wedding, except no one's life or death Super Bowl. It's just great, great candidates and, coverage, stuff like that. So branching into that has been really fulfilling, and it is a great way to work through Monday through Friday and not on the weekend. And like you mentioned earlier, Bill, great point. There's no emotion in it in the same way. It doesn't require as much emotional labor and show up and ego, self-centeredness and kind of pushing that away, and mental discipline in the same way. And
you're not worried about if the vice president gets as much coverage as the CIO, because who cares?
Who cares? I mean, it's just, the priorities are just very, very different. And I think that gives us a lot of space to, not like we're not working hard, but it gives us a little bit more space to relax in what we're doing. And then, like I said, that allows us, I think, to show up really well at our weddings, because that's not the only thing we're doing. We do have, I had a team member yesterday. She did one of our clients a client I had maybe 10 years ago reached out, and their company was hosting like a promotion party for one of their new partners at their firm. 75 people, little bitty thing. She went for 2 hours, easy peasy. No feedback, no nothing. We're just send the photos, and it's that. There you go. It's great. They'll call us again when they have another one. Yeah. So I found a lot of fulfillment in helping other business owners grow, and kind of using. It's so much easier to look at someone else's business and tell them what to do, other than your own. I'm sure if I could consult on my own business, I would change a ton. It's so much easier for you to tell me your problems and me work on those.
Yeah.
That third party perspective.
Well, and it's hard to have a retirement plan in the wedding business, because
Very much so.
you don't want to be that 75-year-old photographer out there, barely able to hold the camera.
True, yeah.
And so, it's definitely easier to have a team do commercial work Monday through Friday, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And a big part of my motivation for getting out of it was that I recognized that last year that I did weddings, physically it took a massive toll. I mean, carrying a camera around for 12 hours. But then that thing about being on, we did an event last night for the United Way. It was fun. It was emotional. Everybody was excited about being there, but there was very little kind of pressure on it, because we weren't really controlling any element of it. We were just there to document what was happening. We had made the video that was being shown at the thing. And so it was just kind of it was a lighter event. Right.
Yeah.
And, I think moving into a place where you're diversified with that gives you that ability to have a team do wedding stuff and keep that profit center up, but also move into something that's a little bit easier to age into. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, so you're getting more into the commercial side of stuff, expanding your offerings, but what does the future look like for you? I mean, is it beyond photography? Is it beyond image creating? What is
that was going to be my question.
Oh my God.
You
It's
and
a
I were like,
vibe.
it's
Been doing this a while.
It's the shirt. We have connection.
the black shirts.
The black
There we
shirt
go.
situation. Yeah.
I think Eventually, I really would like to continue to build the team and get to a point where we're basically a image creation firm where you would come and you need video, you need audio, you need photos. We're going to facilitate that. And eventually I would love to where I am basically camera off maybe by the time I'm 40, 45, and just kind of running the business and overseeing things. I know I outsource a lot right now, but my goal is hopefully to maybe build to a team of 3 to 5 full-time individuals. I don't want to probably scale any larger than that because just having my team of like 5 1099 employees is complicated enough. But I want to really just build a brand that is here, that is safe and welcoming and affirming to all of the different people that we get to see and serve, not only in the wedding space, but in all of these other spaces we're talking about. And just constantly kind of just have this place that people can go where if you need imagery for your business, your family, your event, we'll take care of you. You know us, you know our brand. We saw you at your wedding day and after your family portraits, and we'll see you again at your company party for Christmas. And, you know, constantly grow those relationships where when you think of someone to call, just call Jessica Hunt's team. They'll have somebody. That's my hopeful goal. And I don't want to be a photographer who's 45 and 50 chasing people around on their wedding day. I do love it. I love the hustle, the seriousness, I love feeling like I'm the quarterback, like I'm like Lamar Jackson on a wedding day. Like, hello, I'm in the Super Bowl. This is so fucking fun. Ooh, am I allowed to cuss?
That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
you're good.
But on the same time of that, the sustainability of it all is something that I've been thinking about a lot. COVID, I think, brought that in a lot too. Of just trying to diversify income into the business. You know, we do boudoir, and that's a huge part of our business too, where we have that private studio location and people come in for that as well. So it is diversifying all of that and keeping my hands on all of it. My goal is to eventually just be that oversee and just be facilitating a really human first, open, accepting, diversified brand where people can come, be safe, feel good, get great imagery for whatever you need it for. As you know, life goes on.
That's awesome. Well, so something I've recognized in your work, I guess, over the last 10 years, you follow a lot of your personal beliefs in your work. It's something that really doesn't come up for us very much. Like we don't drive towards things that we personally believe in as much as just take the jobs as they come up. But it seems like your personal beliefs really affect the work that you do. Talk about incorporating that into your work and what does that mean to you?
I like to say that we are like a brand that's centered around values, and that everything that we do, you know, I'm talking about that human first. I am a person who really feels super passionately about making sure people feel seen and heard and accepted and safe. That's been something that, you know, I grew up learning and really solidified for me in 2016 after I was at a protest with the Black Lives Matter movement. And I had posted from my business that we were going to go, Jessica Hunt Photography was going to go and stand in solidarity with these people. This was right after we had had quite a few different instances where Black men were having violent interactions with the police. And someone who followed my business posted my business in a white supremacist Facebook group after that and encouraged them all to attack me, leave me bad reviews, try and get my website taken down. And I'm 22, and I knew immediately. I knew when I went it was the right thing to do. After that, I was like, this is the right thing to do. And so I just made an effort to make sure that my portfolio and my business reflected who I was as a person and how diverse my own life was personally. And making sure I was highlighting those clients of different skin tones, of interfaith relationships, interracial relationships, queer couples, and every one of those broad specters of humanity. That was really important to me because I knew it was kind of a need here in Columbia and in the South and arguably in the wedding industry at that time. And I wanted to make people feel safe. I didn't want to hear from clients that I was referred 4 photographers and you're the only one who had anyone who looked like me in the portfolio.
Right.
Or I don't really know, like, can you photograph me? Will I look okay? Do you know how to photograph my skin? Those kind of questions were, you know, coming up. And I wanted to make sure that just like you are in my personal life as me as just Jess, you're welcome no matter who you are or what God you pray to or what you look like or who you love. I wanted my business to reflect that. And so I made a concerted effort to show that in imagery, that all different types of people and love and faiths and everything was welcome. And then making sure that I stayed really staunchly loud and firm about it in the face of vendors that we both know speaking to me personally or publicly about
Saying, hey, you shouldn't do that.
you shouldn't do that. Sending me Instagram DMs, you need to be careful. You're gonna ruin your business here in the South. I was told right after we met, there isn't room for a colored hair photographer who shoots people like that in South Carolina. Baby, there's room.
And I found over the course of time that I've been in it, once people are telling you you're crazy, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And that's,
I also made
helps.
the point to a friend the other day, not only was it all these decisions and moves I made in my business when I was younger, wholly value-based. I was truly at that time probably afraid that they were right. I was going to fail. Mm-hmm. Now looking back, I kind of have the perspective of not only is it the right thing to do as a person and to making sure that we're showing up as humans for other humans and being intentional about that, but it's just good business.
Yeah.
If someone walks into your business and they walk right back out just because you don't show them in your portfolio, you let money walk out the door.
Right.
And I got to the point where, and one of my motivations for the team too was when I got wedding inquiries for a date I was already booked, I would just be like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? I'm a great client is connecting with our brand. They're coming in. I'm not available. So I'm literally watching thousands of dollars walk out of my email inbox. So that is the other part of that conversation too, is now I have this perspective of, I know it's the right thing to do. I think everyone should be really intentional about that in their business and making sure that their employees, the people that perceive them, their peers, and your clients feel that, those values, that they're welcome and safe there. But it's just good business. It has made us so much money. The amount of times we have had clients hire us based off just feedback from our values that we talk about, or just being like, you're the one we know who does this. I have couples, I had a really, really, really popular, beautiful couple in 2018, Daniel and Cameron, 2 grooms, stunning wedding at the State House, was published in The Knot, really tons of social media. From that event, I still have queer couples in Columbia to tell me today that they found our brand from that, and like, you're the queer photographer. You're the one we go to. And as a queer woman, that makes me really happy, but it also makes me really proud as a businesswoman because we have a reputation and it makes us so much money. It also brings in people that vibe with us, whether it is someone who is of a marginalized community or not. Other couples who are, just like us, white folks living in the South, doing their thing, they'll come and say, hey, we see your values and we agree with that and we want to work with you because you talk about it so much or because people are seen. So it was based out of my own personal values, and then that 2016 incident happened, and I do want to be really clear. I don't want to center myself in having that discussion about, going and making sure that I'm active and, supporting and standing in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement or marginalized communities. That situation wasn't about me, but the reaction that people had to my business supporting it really kind of gave me that kind of steel in my spine. And I do think we do serve something that's really needed here, especially in the South. I still have couples coming to me to this day, 2025, from planners. We're going to hire you because you're literally the only photographer they referred that has have Black people on their Instagram.
Wow. Well,
that kind of thing is just,
that first wedding that we did together. I was trying to think of what it was 2 women that got married, and they had either the same name or very similar names. Do you remember this at the
Christina and
it was at the Lula Drake the
pastor's setting?
pastor's thing above Lula Drake.
Wait, no, that's Lisa.
Lisa and Alisa. Yes, that's
and
right.
Rest in peace. Lisa did pass away a few years ago. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Lisa and I are still connected on social media, but Lisa did. But yeah, that was our first wedding together.
Lisa and Alisa.
I remember the Alisa and Alisa.
At the
Lisa
State
and
House.
Alisa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was like May.
Uh-huh.
I could try and pull up their date in my mind, but was it 2017?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was a long time ago.
We have known each other quite a while.
A while.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly that goes by.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly you're going to be that 45-year-old photographer trying to figure out what to do.
Well,
And
I will say though, like Bill, knowing you, it does give me a lot of encouragement because I have watched you successfully transition into from weddings into something that's super sustainable. And it makes me really proud of you as a friend, but it also gives me hope as a young entrepreneur, kind of following the same path that it is possible. And it is available if you are able to do the right things. And it always makes me feel so good. You're like, oh, you have 10-year head start on me. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I need it.
Well, I'll tell you that tip of anytime somebody tells you you're wrong, especially people in your business,
Yeah.
if they tell you you're doing something wrong, you might be onto something.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
because the few calls that I've had about the podcast, other than just to say they want to be on it or whatever it is like, why are you doing this? Why are you taking all this time to do this? Are you making
Yeah.
money from this? Are you charging people? And I go, no, I'm not charging people. It's what we want to do. Like we
Yeah.
want to make bigger connections. We want to, this is our way of kind of connecting,
And when I opened the boudoir studio, I had some other vendors ask me basically the same thing. Like, is it even worth it?
Yeah.
Is it even profitable? Like, why are you even doing?
Are you going to be able to do anything with this?
Yeah. Are people actually even going to get those type of photos around here? Ooh.
Yeah.
And it's been a big part of our business since I launched in 2021. Brings in about 20, maybe 15% of the revenue of the year from our boudoir clients, and we're able to. It's another, when you're that human-centered, value-based business, it's another way to be fulfilled by serving humans, whether not just a wedding day, it's 3 hours and I'm just making you feel beautiful and kind of forgetting like how hard it is to be a human with a body for a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, my wife did several of those. We never had a specialty in it or whatever, but she had requests from brides to do them and did them. And it was always an interesting thing to me because I'm like, I have to stay very far away from this.
Yeah.
I have to make sure the brides know I'm staying very far away
Yeah.
from this. Like, there is a husband in the house, but I promise you, I am not looking over her shoulder while she's editing or whatever. I don't want to have any part of it.
Yeah.
So believe me, it's okay. You go do it. She had one, the photographer had booked a boudoir session and woke up that morning with a migraine. She had to go to the hospital, and Mary had to come in and do an emergency boudoir session.
Oh, fun.
And
911.
yeah, and she and that photographer are still friends to this day and she literally like called 4 or 5 people and everybody referred her to Mary, and Mary came in and did it, and she had a great time, did a good job and all this stuff. But she's still friends with that photographer today. That's the emergency boudoir. We still talk about that, but.
And that's why weddings are different than other photography services, because even if your photographer wakes up with a migraine, you don't want them to call in a substitute from the second string on the team. Brian knows what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're not
I
calling
know what
people
you're
up from
saying.
training camp
I know the
to play
terms.
in the Super Bowl, guys.
Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't know the terms. But I think that what you're talking about is too, you don't have your first stringer sitting on the bench. You play the right players, at the right time, and I think that's an extremely critical part of how it all works. So Jessica, this is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, I have
Oh,
one last question
go ahead, yeah.
that leads into our
Our
final
first.
five.
All right, go ahead.
Ooh.
I've been thinking about this the entire time this conversation was going on. Is there a image that you've shot that jumps into your head, and like, how did you capture it? Like, what's your favorite image?
Oh, Lord.
Is there one that you go,
Is that
that's
one-
iconic?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, oh man, I have so many couples. No one get their feelings hurt if you are not the one that I'm about to talk about, please. The couple that I worked with in DC, Kelly and James, the year before I was able to do, I went up to DC to do their engagement session. And I had this idea going up there, something that's been in the photography industry that's trending right now is like difference of focus. A lot of things are out of focus. Not my favorite. Motion blur, just some creative focusing, I'd say, is kind of coming into trend. And flying up there, I was just like, I just want to, like, I had this idea of them like holding hands and the Washington Monument as the in focus in the background over the reflecting pool.
Oh, cool.
And I have that on my website. It's on the main page. It's one of the headers. And the couple is out of focus. Really, the only thing in frame is like their shoulders to where they're holding hands. So it's framed on either side with their bodies. And you have, their hands holding, but focus is on the Washington Monument in the back. And it's just this beautiful sunrise. The ducks are over the pond, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And that's one of the ones where I'm just like, I love that idea of just like I was able to think about that visuality and then kind of execute it and like kind of just create what I saw in my head a
Nailed
little
it.
bit, and like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I do this. I'm actually okay at
That's
this
amazing.
sometimes.
And honestly, that's one of the things that I miss a little bit about wedding videography is being able to have those things that you have an idea and you're able to just go for that idea.
Yeah.
So our work is so planned out in most cases,
Yeah.
where it's got to be,
Exactly this and
to a thing. And so I miss that improvisational feel, to doing things. Well, okay. So other than favorite photograph, we're going to end up with your 5 favorites, and here we go.
Okay.
Who is your favorite musical artist?
Can I have 2?
Sure.
Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar.
Whoa. Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar are an interesting pair.
They also have a song together, and
Do they
they're
really?
the only 2 artists in history to win Song of the Year at the Grammys for diss tracks.
Nice.
Thrilling.
Well, we just did a video in December for a band that is a Taylor Swift tribute act.
Oh, cute.
And the band is called Elizabeth as Taylor.
Oh,
And Elizabeth played Taylor at Legends in Myrtle Beach for
Cool.
several years and
Yeah.
now has a Taylor Swift act. And if you squint your eyes, it's definitely her. She sings like her. She
Sounds like
moves
it's
like
me.
her. Like, you should go check it out.
I love that. Hell yeah.
It's a bunch of 10 to 14-year-olds up in the front squealing their heads off because
Yeah.
they can't tell the difference. And it was pretty amazing. That's awesome. Great. Love it. And I have yet to figure out Kendrick Lamar. I'm gonna give it another shot.
Let me make you like a playlist. I've been a fan of his since like
Yeah.
his first mixtape.
Give me an
would make-
idea of how to figure it out. My son tells me that Drake is a better artist than the Beatles. Okay, that's what
Lord
my son
have
tells me.
mercy.
Not
That's
sorry,
audacious.
not better. More popular, I guess, or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. So I said, okay, well, give me a Drake. Because all I knew at that point was Hotline Bling. And I was like, Hotline Bling is not a song. So I know songs. I've been around songs my whole life. This is not a song. This is a collection of sounds that they put together, and it got to be a hit, and I have no idea why. Show me something that deserves some
Music.
praise,
Yeah.
And he said, well, listen to this, and that, and the other thing. And I said, nope, I'm just old.
I'm just old.
I just don't get it. I hear it. It sounds like somebody took the Casio keyboard and hit preset number 1
Yeah.
and plays preset number 1 the whole time and then raps over that a little bit.
The reason why I like both of those artists so much is they are both in their mature careers really known for their writing.
Right.
Kendrick Lamar has like so many accolades. He won a Pulitzer
Right.
as a hip hop artist. So his lyricism, and Taylor Swift on the other side of that has been like given an honorary doctorate degree in English from NYU because of her incredible writing. And I think she'll probably win a Pulitzer at some point in my opinion.
She's been popular longer than I can think of anyone else being popular.
And how many female pop stars can you say that about? Like, we don't give women, especially Beyonce
And Taylor Swift, and that's about all I got.
yeah,
Mariah Carey.
and
Mariah Carey, Madonna to a point. Madonna was early
in her-
80s to
yeah.
mid 90s.
I think
you
Mariah
know,
Carey
but-
like owned the 90s a little bit more
Yeah.
than like right now. Current stars, those 2 women have such long careers.
But Taylor Swift came out in 2009.
yeah,
So you're
she
talking about
was-
26
she was
years.
16.
Yeah. I mean,
Incredible.
that's insane.
and that the fact that she's 34 writing work that is resonating with women like me and with those 10 and 12-year-olds squealing.
Mm-hmm. But you've
know.
grown up with her,
Yeah.
right? So she grew up at the same
Yeah.
rate that you grew up.
So
and
that's kind of probably why it resonates so much.
Mm-hmm.
And Kendrick Lamar is just an incredible storyteller. His
Right.
lyricism is crazy. Let me send you a few
Yeah.
songs
well, like
that
my-
are just actually songs that actually
Yeah.
say something. That's
Well,
one thing
whatever.
too. It's like I think with the comparison of those 2 artists, one artist makes songs that I like to like put my hand in the air and do my
Mm-hmm.
dance to, and another artist is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think, and my brain is like, oh, I'm learning something.
right party music versus
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I would say that my daughter's 15. She has no opinion at all about Madonna. She couldn't tell you who Madonna was from Adam. She has an opinion about Taylor Swift. She doesn't like Taylor Swift at all.
Oh, wow.
She rejects Taylor Swift because of the popularity,
Oh, I see.
right? So she's
Yeah.
15. It's not cool in her circles. So,
She
but
forgets the time where true Taylor Swift fans know before Reputation came out.
15.
Taylor Swift was also not popular. Everyone hated her. Remember the Kim Kardashian, the snakes, the
Yeah.
fake Kanye call? Like there were so many articles like Taylor Swift's a bitch, like all of that craziness. And now she's like one of the most famous artists in the world and everyone
it's the
loves her
lore.
again.
That's what's helped her stay popular for 26
truly,
years. is
I
the
think
lore.
so.
Yeah.
And I think, people have pointed out, though, that she does, previously in her career, had a little bit of a parasocial relationship with her fans and would,
Yeah.
invite them to her house for
It's odd.
listening
It's a little
stuff.
odd, yeah.
And now when you think back on that, you're like, no wonder some of these people are, obsessed with you. They truly think that y'all are friends.
Right.
Right. Which I am not under any delusion. But should Taylor Swift ever get married, I do know a wedding photographer.
I know. And you might be appropriate.
Hey,
for it,
look.
Yeah. You're certainly qualified. That's all I can
At least
tell
that.
you.
At least that.
You
Let me
know
just get in the
football.
right room.
Huh?
And
Yeah,
I know
that's right.
football. Thank you. I'm learning. I know what a tight end is. Okay.
Exactly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the role of the tight end is on the football team. So
He's like a usually big guy,
Mm-hmm.
usually kind of taller than thicker than the receivers because he does some blocking, I hear.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't catch the ball more than 30 yards away from the quarterback. He does a little run this way. He's
Mm-hmm.
like the second option. Wide receiver's not open. We're going to this big guy. He's probably going to catch it and then run into somebody.
cool.
Brian?
There you go.
It works.
I feel like I should just start a podcast where it's just
should.
simple explanations of
Jess
sports.
talks football.
yeah, right?
Yeah. Okay. Favorite movie?
V for Vendetta.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Very
Love it.
nice.
Love that movie.
Natalie
Love-
Portman at the height of her power.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, the bald head. Oh my gosh. Natalie Portman is
She had a string of hits that year.
truly one of
that
my
year, the
favorite
year before,
actresses.
too.
I've probably seen every movie that she's been in.
Awesome.
Thank you to Star Wars: Attack of the Clones for bringing me my first ever girl crush as a young girl.
Wow.
Love, but
That
I
was
love
a terrible role. She did an awful job.
But that
in it.
little white outfit, she just looks so great. Bill.
That whole dialogue scene with her and Hayden Christensen, I was just like, please don't do this. Don't ever do this. Okay, that's awesome. I love V for Vendetta. It's great. I saw somebody with that mask on their shirt the other day.
Guy Fawkes.
The Guy Fawkes mask.
I think it is maybe timely and appropriate for
Mm-hmm.
every American citizen to just take a gander if you haven't seen it.
Yeah,
It
it's,
may inspire.
It's a good one. Okay, favorite dessert.
Ooh. Maybe cheesecake?
Yeah,
I love a good thick New York cheesecake.
it's the most common answer on the podcast
Gag,
is
really?
cheesecake.
I was gonna say chocolate chip cookies, but that seemed a little too. I'm trying
That's
to think what
probably
else.
number
I honestly, I do this thing called candy salad,
Mm-hmm.
because life is really boring and hard sometimes. So sometimes you have to be a child, even though
Mm-hmm.
you're an adult. So I'll go to the gas station and get 4 or 5 different bags of gummy candy. So for example, wild berry Skittles,
Mm-hmm.
some Haribo gummy bears, maybe some Blue Sharks, maybe I don't know, Lifesaver gummies. Mix it all together in one bowl. Candy salad.
Nice.
Now you're watching your little show. You grab a little bit of candy salad.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
5 different ways to receive joy. It costs you about $13 at Quick Trip.
This was a TikTok trend, wasn't it? Where people walk up to
Yeah,
the
I
bowl and
saw.
pour candy in?
Yes, I saw people
Yeah.
doing that. I just have been doing it by myself. No friends are coming over with other things. I will.
That's
or
amazing to do that by yourself.
I will
love
just
it.
send my boyfriend out I just want a candy salad. Bring back whatever. And I love gummy, chewy candies. I really like
Yeah.
a texture to a candy.
Hilarious. What's your favorite season?
Spring, I think. Yeah, I love the cool early mornings and the blooming and the reminder that the sun doesn't go down at 5 p.m. and seasonal depression is going to leave someday.
Weddings pick back up.
Weddings pick back up.
I always like that.
Spring is in the
April
Yeah.
rolls around. I'm like, I
gotta
gotta get
get
money
to work.
again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And also daylight savings is the worst thing in the world to
Yeah.
me, not only as a photographer, because, daylight savings happens and people still want to have their ceremony at 5:30 and not have a first look in November. And I'm like, baby, it's going to be dark.
Oh my God, the candlelit ceremony.
Uh-huh.
Why would anybody agree to this?
And then if you're shooting it and it's dark enough, you have to shoot with flash and external light. So then
then
the
it kills the
photos
whole thing.
doesn't look candlelit at all. The amount of candles you would
Preach.
need for something like that is a furnace fire. It would be so hot and uncomfortable in that room.
Oh my God. I had a candlelit ceremony. This is a side. I had a candlelit ceremony at the convention center one year in one of the ballrooms, and they insisted on having all the lights out and closing the doors, and it was only lit by candles. And it
You
was
can't
a
see?
African American couple. So, darker skin in a dark suit, and then the bride in a white dress and darker skin. And I'm just sitting there going, I can't see them
Like I can't even
on the
see
camera.
the focus.
I can't see them.
Yeah.
So I hope it's okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So I got it in post and I boosted everything up, noise all over the place, and they were happy with it. They called me out overjoyed with how
Love it.
everything looked, and I'm like, okay.
You should see people's mind when they look at me and I'm like explaining, like, if it's too dark, the camera can't see and
Yeah.
it won't even take a picture. And they're like, but you have a flash. I'm like, yeah, but I still have to be
gotta
able to
see it.
see.
You gotta be able to compose the shot.
Like, I have to be able to compose a shot, and the lens has to be able to focus. Like, it
Yeah.
just doesn't walk around seeing all the time. And people, like, planners will be looking at me like, what do you mean?
This is
There's
not
a
a zero
flash,
sum
though.
game.
And I'm
It's
like-
got to be some way for it to go out.
Right.
Okay, last one. What would be your last meal on death row?
Ooh, probably some scallops, some mashed potatoes, and a really well cooked steamed broccoli. Little
Okay.
garlic butter on top.
Nice.
Don't miss the bread on the side.
Right.
You
Because
know,
why not?
I mean, it's the last meal.
Because why not?
Also,
Let's eat
a
more
slice
bread.
of cheesecake and I don't know, a fountain Coke large from Quick Trip to drink for sure.
Oh.
Or a McDonald's Coke, very spicy.
Oh yeah, with the big old straw.
Oh yeah. I used to never drink soda, like ever. And now that I've gotten a little bit older, I'm like, oh, I need a little treat.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing like a large McDonald's Coke. Actually, there's science behind why it tastes better. If you heard this, Brian, where they have like patented machines, they put more bubbles in their
It's
Coke.
It's the purest form of
The original.
fountain Coke.
Oh.
They use more
Interesting.
syrup, and they also have like a patent size of their straws are a little bit wider. So
Right.
when it hits your tongue,
It's
there's
it's
more,
more.
room.
I've also
I had
heard
always
that
thought it
it's
was the straw size.
It's
So-
it's the
It's the machine they have too.
it's the machine and what holds the
it's-
syrup. So it's not like this bag of syrup.
Yeah, and
It's like a metal almost like a brewery.
basically,
so-
yeah. And they keep it colder. It's temperature controlled, and they use more Coke syrup than the other companies do. That's why it tastes a little bit different.
Well, daggone.
Yeah.
Coke connoisseur over here.
McDonald's has
The best Coke?
the best
Coke.
fountain Coke you can get.
I am a Coca-Cola addict from way back, and it used to be my Achilles heel, and I haven't had a Coca-Cola since 2015.
Why are you talking about my favorite thing in the world like it's a cigarette?
Because
I'm
I had to stop it.
offended.
I had to stop because it was like
You do like a Coke Zero now?
no, no sodas. I haven't had
No
any
soda?
sodas since 2015.
Yeah, I was literally that person, just opposite now, where I'm like, I mean, on the way home, it's a Friday. I got to go back to the office. I
Yeah.
should probably get a Coke.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, Jessica, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
this.
for
This was
having
so
me.
great. It's good to catch up, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, well, thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for having me. I really appreciate it. And as always, Bill, I'm so proud of you. You've grown so much. You keep
Thanks.
on growing. You are a leader for us in the industry. I know you're not in weddings anymore, but people are watching. I've always keeping up with you, and I'm honored that we get to be peers and friends. Truly.
Awesome. That's great to hear. See, Brian.
Some people like him, Brian.
Somebody
Dog.
likes me.
I did partner with you.
That's true. That's true.